We are in England at the end of the 1990s. Terrible incidents are becoming increasingly frequent. The pattern is always the same. It happens in remote locations across the country, so remote that in some cases, there are not even any place name signs. It happens to women who are never out alone, but always with their dogs. The last thing they ever see is a car. Sometimes it stops next to them. Sometimes the driver blocks their path. And then, the horror begins. It is November 15th, 1997, a Saturday. For 14-year-old Kate Bushell, this weekend is probably one of the best she has had in a long time. That's because she has a very important job to do this weekend. Her neighbors are away for the weekend and have entrusted Kate with looking after their dog, Gemma. For Kate, the time with Gemma is probably a real highlight. She likes the dog very much, and since she is looking after her all weekend, it almost feels as if Gemma is her very own pet for 2 days. On the morning of November 15th, Kate is out and about with her mother in downtown Exeter. The two of them are doing a bit of shopping. Kate buys a CD with her pocket money. Kate's mother later fondly remembers this time with her daughter. Sure, she's 14 and in the middle of puberty. As a result, there are sometimes arguments between the two. But Kate is slowly growing up and starting to behave accordingly. Now, the two are no longer just mother and daughter, but also really good friends. Back home, Kate listens to her new CD for a while and does some schoolwork. At 4:30 p.m., it's time for the nicer part of the afternoon. It's time to walk the neighbor's dog, Gemma. At 4:40 p.m., she leaves the neighbor's house on Barada Drive. It's already getting a little dark, but the Axwick neighborhood is not the kind of area that would make you feel uncomfortable. Everyone knows everyone here. Everyone is friendly and helpful. Cars are a rare sight on the local roads. Mostly, it's just walkers and residents out and about. A father and his 2 children are also taking advantage of the afternoon to get some fresh air. The 3 of them pass Kate on their way. The father remembers glancing at his watch shortly before. It was 4:55 p.m. Kate's walk is uneventful for at least 15 minutes. A female driver also sees Kate. She is perhaps the most important witness in this case. She is driving down the forest road where Kate is walking with Gemma. Because the road is single lane, Kate has to stand on the grass strip on the left-hand side and wait for the car to pass. A few meters further down, the driver sees a blue van parked on the right side of the road. Next to it is a man with his back turned to her. She notices him because he is doing the exact opposite of Kate. When she drove past Kate seconds earlier, the girl looked at her closely from the side of the road. The man, on the other hand, almost seems as if he doesn't want to be seen. The driver will later blame herself terribly. To this day, she wonders whether she could have prevented what happened to Kate Bushell that afternoon. About an hour later, at 6 p.m., dinner is supposed to be served at the Bushell's house, but Kate is still not home. It's perfectly normal for a 14-year-old to lose track of time. Nevertheless, her parents want to make sure that nothing bad has happened. Kate's parents get in the car. They know where their daughter usually walks with her dog Gemma. Kate's parents immediately have a bad feeling because they cannot find Kate. They decide to alert the police and file a missing person report. The police take the matter seriously right away. Although it is already dark, a search operation is launched. Kate's father goes back to the forest path and searches the area with a flashlight. At this point, it is not even 7 p.m. Statistically speaking, the chances of finding Kate alive are still high, and her father wants to leave no stone unturned while his daughter is still out there. Her mother stays at home in case Kate reappears in the meantime. After only a few minutes of searching, Mr. Bushell first finds Gemma. As he approaches the dog, his flashlight catches something else. To his right, just a few meters away, lies his daughter, Kate, who just 3 hours ago was sitting at her desk at home, listening to her new CD and doing her homework. There is a bleeding wound on her neck. Kate is dead. Less than half an hour after Mr. Bushell found his daughter dead, a neighbor noticed something strange. He went outside because the police helicopter was still circling over the residential area. As he stepped outside to look at the helicopter, he saw a man running toward him from the direction of the crime scene. He is running towards Cornwall Hill. Maybe it's just a jogger who hasn't noticed anything, or someone who doesn't want to be seen by the circling helicopter. Some media reports say the man was wearing blood-stained clothes, while others make no mention of this. Either way, this man was never found. Witnesses report seeing another suspicious man that evening. That makes 3 in total. First, the guy the witnesses saw from the car, then the man who was running around the area shortly after Kate was found, and then the one I'm about to tell you about. They were all seen around the crime scene at the time of the crime. The sightings appear to involve 3 different men. However, none of them ever came forward as witnesses to the police. So they are all equally potential witnesses and also potential suspects. The third tip comes from a local resident. Since mid-September 1998, he had repeatedly seen a somewhat strange guy in the area who was not from the neighborhood. He suspected that he was a vagrant. The man had long, shaggy hair, a beard, and wore a worn, brown coat. He wore this coat every time, even in September when it was still quite warm. The witness saw the man again on November 12th, just 3 days before Kate's death. It was very close to the street where Kate lives. When the witness was out walking his dog, the man suddenly jumped out from behind a tree and ran past him across the path. The witness was extremely frightened and very surprised by this encounter. It took place on the very path where Kate often went for walks. Fittingly, a local resident claims to have seen an orange tent near the site where Kate was later found on the weekend in question. So perhaps the man was really a vagrant who had pitched his tent there. If so, he could be very important, at least as a witness. In fact, the police find several makeshift shelters and improvised toilets in the area. However, no one knows who they belonged to. The sources suggest that this man never reappeared after Kate's murder. Although the case was discussed extensively at the time, he never came forward as a witness. Neither did the other 2 men I told you about. The Kate Bushell case becomes a cold case. But less than a year later, another woman will suffer a very similar fate. It is October 20th, 1998. The murder of Kate Bushell took place about 11 months ago and remains unsolved. In the village of Ruin Highlands in Cornwall, hardly anyone is likely to be thinking about the case anymore, if they ever did in the first place. Ruin Highlands is more than 130 kilometers away from Axwick, where Kate was killed. Less than 300 people live here, and any danger seems far away. This is also true for 40-year-old Lynn Bryant. She is a mother of 2 and even a grandmother. Her younger daughter still lives with Lynn. Her older child lives with her grandson in her own apartment. Her family is the most important thing to Lynn. On this Tuesday in October, Lynn drives her younger daughter to work. Around 1 p.m., Lynn stops at a gas station. There, she happens to meet an old acquaintance and chats with her by the car. However, the conversation is cut short. Lynn's acquaintance's car is blocking another driver's way to the gas pump. The man is driving a white van and is around 50 years old. His gray-streaked full beard is particularly striking. The acquaintance goes to her car and drives out of the gas station lot. However, the driver of the white van does not greet her or show his gratitude with a brief gesture. Instead, he just continues to stare straight ahead in the direction of Lynn's car. And it's obvious that the man doesn't want to fill up. Because when Lynn drives away from the gas station, the white van also reverses and follows her. Maybe this has nothing to do with what happens to Lynn a few hours later. But maybe the driver of the white van is also to blame for everything that happens. In any case, Lynn Bryant makes it back home unharmed, but it's only a short pit stop. At 1:35 p.m., she leaves the house again, together with her dog Jay. It's time for the daily walk. She takes the same route almost every day, down a small footpath toward the Methodist chapel, then on toward the small village of Trevorga. Between 1:45 and 2 p.m., a witness drives past the small path toward the chapel. He sees Lynn and Jay there with a strange man. The man is in his late 30s, has dark hair and bushy eyebrows. At 2 p.m., a farmer nearby is tending to his cows. He notices a man moving quickly across one of the fields. Shortly afterwards, Lynn is found dead in that very spot. Murdered in broad daylight with extraordinary brutality. Similar to Kate Bushell the year before, her dog Jay sits unharmed next to her dead owner. Strangely, one thing was stolen from Lynn: her glasses. The site where she was found is searched meticulously, but the 40-year-old's glasses are missing. When Lynn's case is featured on Crime Watch, this is explicitly pointed out. Perhaps this appeal is responsible for the glasses actually turning up again. 4 months after Lynn's murder, the glasses are suddenly found at the location where the body was discovered. The perpetrator seems to have returned, and virtually returned the glasses. Just like in the case of Kate Bushell, there are 3 different men in the Lynn Bryant case who were seen by witnesses and never came forward. One is the man from the white van at the gas station. Another is the man Lynn was seen with shortly before she was found. And the third is a man who was seen by a farmer in the middle of a field, coming from the direction of the crime scene. All of them could be either perpetrators or important witnesses, and their identities remain unknown to this day. In October 2018, it was announced that parts of potential perpetrator DNA had been secured. Unfortunately, an initial comparison with the existing database was unsuccessful. But at least this means that possible suspects can be ruled out. Nevertheless, this also means that Lynn Bryant's killer is still out there and has not been caught to this day. Investigators immediately notice how similar the cases of Kate Bushell and Lynn Bryant are. In both cases, women were out alone with their dogs during the day. Although in very remote locations, these were still places where witnesses could potentially remember someone very easily. It is also interesting to note that both dogs remained unharmed. Here too, the perpetrator took a big risk, as the dogs could have attacked him at any time. These silent witnesses must be incredibly frustrating for the investigators. On December 31st, 1998, something happened that made the possibility of a serial offender even more likely. On New Year's Eve, a mother and daughter go for a walk with the family dog. The two are in Netherton. The place is so tiny that it doesn't even count as a village in its own right. Netherton is only about a 20-minute drive from Axwick. The last dog walk of 1998 was supposed to be a short, relaxing outing for the anonymous mother-daughter duo. Instead, everything changed. Suddenly, The 17-year-old daughter was hit by a car. Before the mother could rush to her daughter's aid, the driver got out of the car, but not to help. He held a knife to her throat and forced both women into his car and into the back seat. The man drove towards a remote field. However, he hadn't counted on the daughter's great courage. She grabs the man from behind around the neck, causing the car to come to a stop. The man starts trying to hurt them from the front seat. He cuts the mother's hands with his knife, but the two manage to free themselves from the car and run away. They are able to describe the man's car well. It is said to have been a blue-gray Vauxhall Cavalier sedan. The car first drove past the two of them, but a few minutes later, it suddenly reappeared behind them and drove straight into the daughter. There is also a good description of the man himself. He is said to have been between 35 and 40 years old, with full lips and a round face, short blonde hair, and fair skin. Both the local police and the Cornwall police say that the parallels between the cases of Kate, Lynn, and the New Year's Eve incident cannot be dismissed. Even after this attack, similar incidents continue to occur. In January 1999, a woman is attacked while walking her dog near Cambon. The location is only a few kilometers away from where Lynn was found. Fortunately, the woman manages to escape from her attacker. Just like with the mother and daughter, a driver suddenly pulled up, got out, and attacked her. She describes the attacker as quite tall, between 30 and 40 years old, with light hair. In July 2000, a woman found herself in a life-threatening situation. While walking her dog in Salcombe, 40 miles from Axwick, she was attacked by a man carrying a knife. He got out of a dark blue Volvo and pursued her for about 300 meters before the woman's dog managed to scare the attacker away. It is always the same pattern. Women in small villages in the counties of Devon, Exeter, or Cornwall, out walking their dogs, are attacked by a man. The 2 murders and 3 attacks took place within a period of only 18 months. Such a similarity in modus operandi is very striking. Even if the possible perpetrator is described differently each time, but the perpetrator could also have followed the media coverage and changed his appearance repeatedly. In the 3 attacks between December 1998 and July 2000, the attacker was outrun or driven off each time. Who knows whether the women would otherwise have suffered the same fate as Kate and Lynn? There is also repeated speculation as to whether the hypothetical serial killer could have started much earlier, namely in March 1987, a full 11 years before Kate's death. A 66-year-old woman named Helen Fleet was murdered. As you can probably guess, this also happened while she was walking her dog. Her murder remains unsolved to this day. The police have never officially considered a connection between Helen's murder and the others. In none of these cases has the perpetrator ever been found. What do you think? Is this a serial killer? The DNA evidence would at least give us a chance to find out, which would make it all the more shocking that he was never caught and is not stored in any database. It is unimaginable that Lynn and Kate's loved ones have had to live with such uncertainty for almost 30 years now, especially since the crimes took place so close to their respective homes. But there is still hope that the case can be solved at some point. If you found the video interesting, I would appreciate a like or a comment. And if you like, please subscribe to Insolito so you don't miss any more videos. Other than that, there's not much else to say. I wish you a good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching the video, and hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, ciao everyone.